Well, black people are Native Americans. We've had, a lot of proof that, some of us started here in this land. Everybody wasn't brought over from Africa.
What are they doing here? They're Indians.
This is one of my many unsuccessful experiments. You see, with Indians, there's absolutely nothing to be done. There's the same difference between a Negro and an Indian as there is between a dog and a coyote. You can put a dog on a leash, beat him, and he'll always be there to lick your feet. Take away a coyote's liberty and you've cut off his heir. An Indian will never be a slave. No one has ever been able to make them reproduce in captivity. They do not eat, they do not talk, they do not sleep, they do not make love.
There are several things that are significant about it. Of course, one of them is the way that colonialism tries to develop all kinds of elaborate classification terms for different kinds of people. But that's another subject. The most significant thing here is to reveal the much greater amounts of Native American ancestry that are present within the African American population than most people realize, because they might have been misled by the use of terms like mulatto and also people of color.
After the African, LeVar Burton, had been told that his name was to be Toby, and he refused it, and he was beaten to make him say his name was Toby.
That was the dramatization. How much of that actually was recounted to you? I mean, was there a lot of interweaving?
A lot of it, I thought maybe you were going to ask, and maybe you are in another way, is how much of the book is fact and how much is fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction.
Now, this is just a tiny bit of information now.
But they take it as huge.
Right, because it's cracking open the door.
There's a place in Africa you could say that I'm from. A tribe? I am thrilled. It puts a name, a place, a location, a people.
Hank really is concerned that the science isn't really there yet for you to be giving them the name of a tribe.
I think for most companies, I would be concerned too.
But what about your own company?
We have
He
the
didn't
largest...
exclude you. He included you.
But we have the largest set of sequences from Africa. And so with that, we're able to provide some level of probability in terms of frequency.
But he would say that even though you have the largest database, it's still small on the scope of things.
As I said, I share those concerns. We don't oversell. I mean, we just say, look, we provide a service. If you're interested in exploring a tiny bit of your DNA and trace its ancestry, we can do that.
When you say it's a tiny little amount,
it's less than 0.1%. Less than 0.1%. Less than 0.1%.
And that's pretty teeny.
Yeah, but for people who know nothing about any of them, I think it's very important.
You do not know a goddamn thing about Africa. I am from Detroit, Motown. So you can want Tootsie your monkey ass back to Africa if you want to.
Can you hear me? I'm sorry, y'all. We do this every Friday. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? I hope everybody's doing fine. Get up in here. Get up in here. Let me know if y'all can hear me. I know it was messed up. My bad. This is a Friday thing. Okay, thank you, son. Thank you. How y'all doing? Y'all get up in here. Y'all know I'm slow as a turtle. Didn't unmute the doggone thing. Boo, did you see the plane crash in Alaska and train derail in Philadelphia? No, when was that? I don't know when that was. Send it over. VoodooDollPodcast@gmail.com. Send it over, fat. I ain't never heard of that. But thank you so much. You guys get the likes up on the video. We got a nice show today. We're gonna talk about the Rev. Y'all know how I feel about the Revs now. But we're gonna discuss the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Now, I ain't gonna lie. I'm born in 83. When I grew up in the 90s, in the 80s, obviously, but the 90s for sure. When I learned about Jesse Jackson, I was like, oh, he was a freedom fighter. He was a part of the civil rights movement. I knew that he coined the term African American, because I do remember faintly that whole situation going on. What else I remember about Jesse Jackson? You know, they just told us all the good things about brother Jesse. But the whole time, in my opinion, I believe Jesse was a goddamn fed. Do you hear me? A fed. That's what I believe. I do know he was working with the government at some point. We'll get into that. We'll also get into his ties with Martin Luther King. Because you know the word on the curb is they said, I didn't say it. But they said that he wasn't in none of them civil rights movements like that. They say Jesse would pull up last minute, pop up, what's up? That's what they said. I didn't say it. They said Jesse wasn't a part of none of that stuff. Jesse was just popping up when the cameras came. They said when Martin Luther King got popped, one party said that he wasn't there. He popped up at the very end. But then another party shared that he actually had something to do with it. We're going to get into it. Shout out to our great ancestor, brother Steve Coakley. I'm going to get into a video with him talking about Jesse Jackson. This is the thing. Outside of what was pushed in the public schools, Black people on the grassroots level knew Jesse Jackson wasn't worth a dime. Like, we knew. Like, the talks around the neighborhoods, the talks around the, you know what I'm saying? We all knew Jesse Jackson wasn't worth a dime. So I just found it odd that the books teach us one thing, but the people were saying another thing. And this is another thing I want to bring up too. He called us African Americans, and the whole time he was a Cherokee Indian. We're going to get into that as well. We're also, so I said Martin Luther King, and then we're going to get into this African American thing and a couple other things. But you guys get the likes up on the video. All right, Bree said, my grandma went to school with Jesse Jackson, LOL, here in Greensville, South Carolina. My mom was the last class from their high school that was burned down by the KKK. Don't get me wrong. Hold on, let me send these pictures. Let's really be clear about this. Because, see, it's the uncomfortable conversation that we got to have. Hold on. Let's really be clear about this. I ain't gonna lie. Hold on, let me find it. I ain't gonna lie. Jesse Jackson was cute when he was younger. Okay. I'm about to show y'all. Jesse was cute. With the Afro Jesse with the, young Jesse. He was cute. He was real cute, actually. Hold on. He was real cute, actually. Jesse was really, really cute. And I always thought it was crazy when people found out he had an outside child. And I'm over here saying, why y'all didn't know this? Like, are y'all okay? Like, are y'all okay? All them niggas in the civil rights movements was at the freak offs. Duh. Did we not talk about this last Friday? I know what I said. I was there when I said it. Jesse Jackson wasn't worth a dime. Do you hear me? I know they keep the cute little images and all of that, boom, boom, boom. But at the end of the day, your brother Jesse wasn't worth a dime, but he was cute though. Look at Jesse. Hold on, let me get Jesse up here. Let me get Jesse on here. Jesse was cute. He was cute. I ain't gonna lie. If I was one of the civil rights girls, I probably would have gave him a little something. You know, I ain't gonna lie. I'm just saying because he was tall. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I probably would have gave him a little civil rights cooch. I probably would have. You know what I'm saying? But that's just me thinking out loud. But he was fine. Yes, he was. He was fine. He was tall. He was cute. Tall, dark, and handsome is what they said. I wasn't there. Thank the Lord I wasn't. He knew, where to put me at, But nevertheless, Jesse Jackson wasn't worth a dime. He wasn't worth a dime. Look at Bree said, and her grandma used to say he was a hoe. Everybody knows that, girl. That was the word in the curb on the streets. That was the word on the streets. He wasn't worth a dime. Yeah, baby, sure with a civil rights cooch. Yes, I sure would have. Yeah, and y'all know the hippies was giving out cooch. The Panthers they was taking the cooch from some of them, but some of them was giving out cooch. So we had Panther cooch, civil rights cooch, hippie cooch. We had Muslim cooch. We had a lot of cooch back in the days to give out. Yes, we did. See, we got to be honest about things. I'm at the funeral not saying that the man was a good man, Savannah. I'm going to say he wasn't worth a dime. You know what I'm saying? I'm the relative that's going to get on here and say, no, that nigga owed me $50 and he hit me in the back of my head. So, yeah, Oh, yeah. Freedom fighters, cooch. Yeah. Listen, we got to be honest and talk about the things that's uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, you know, we had to do what we had to do. Yeah. Now, get him off of here. Because I hate the fact that I say he was cute because what he did to us. Let's get into Jesse's bio. So let's get into a little bit of brother Jesse. Jesse Jackson, you know, remember they called him on a hot mic with talking about Obama, talking about that who that nigga think he is. What he said on that hot mic about Obama? Y'all remember that? Girl, that's when I knew Jesse wasn't worth the dime, but I knew it before that. So this is a little bit of Jesse's bio. It says he was born October 8, 1941. Is an not African. They took that part off. American church minister, activist, and politician. He was born Jesse Louis Burns in Greenville, South Carolina. His mother, Helen Burns, was 16 years old at the time he was born. She married his father, Noah Lewis Robinson. When Jackson was 2, his mother married Charles Jackson. Jesse was raised by his grandmother, Matilda, until he was 13. In 1957, he returned home when his stepfather adopted him. Well, what happened to his mama? It says after he graduated high school, had an offer to play professional baseball, for the Chicago White Sox. He also received a scholarship to play college football at the University of Illinois, which he accepted. He later transferred to North Carolina A&T. He was one of Martin Luther King Jr.'s main organizers in Chicago for the Southern Christian Leadership Conferences. We all know the freak offs was happening after that. It says after King was shot, Jackson formed several civil rights organizations of his own. 2 of those, Operation Push and the Rainbow Coalition. Jackson was also active in civil rights movements outside the United States. He also served as a Baptist minister. Now, you know, this is the craziest part. Y'all do know he ran for president too. We're going to get into that. He ran for president as well. Before we move to, let's get into the presidential campaign. Look what it says. This is all according to Wiki, and we all know they be lying. But Wikipedia says the 1988 Jesse Jackson presidential campaign was Jesse Jackson's second campaign for president of the United States. This one he gave us the African-American term. It says this time, his success in the past made him a more credible candidate, and he was both better financed and better organized. Although most people did not seem to believe he had a serious chance at winning, Jackson once again exceeded expectations as he more than doubled his previous results, prompting R.W. Apple Jr. of the New York Times to call 1988 the year of the Jackson. You know who else helped funded his run for president? Put it in the chat if you know who funded Jackson's, one of the main people today that helped funded his run for president. Put it in the chat. There you go. Thank you. Yes. Donald Trump. Donald Trump helped to fund his presidential campaign. Yes. You know, this was back when black people loved him. Now we hate him because the media said so. But yes, Donald Jeremy Trump was the one who helped one of his major campaign donors during this presidential run. You know, he also said that if he ever ran for president, he want Oprah Winfrey as his vice president, and that was in the 90s. Did y'all know that? Put a one in the chat if you knew that Donald Trump also said that in the 90s, he said that if he ever thought of running for president, he would want Oprah Winfrey as his vice president before Scamala. Yeah, he did that. But yeah, so he ran for president in 88, lost. Niggas wasn't ready for a black president, and they damn sure didn't trust no Jesse Geronimo Jackson. Nobody listen, in real life, I'm not talking about this play stuff they be doing, the school stuff. In real life, black people did not trust Jesse Jackson. As a matter of fact, damn near everybody in the SCLC and the civil rights movement used to talk drags for him. Do you hear me? They used to drag for Jesse. They used to drag for him because they knew he wasn't worth a dime. And we're going to get into it. Now, 1988, the year he ran for president for the second time, sorry. Jesse Geronimo Jackson decided that he want to call everybody in America African American. Okay. Now, I don't believe for one second that this was all Jesse's idea. I don't think that he independently, I do not believe that Jesse independently came up with this idea because, I mean, think about it. This was a major pivotal point in Black American history because before that, we were all known as Black. And before we decided to turn Black and say we Black, I can recall a video, and I need to find it, but I can recall a video where the Black people back then who called themselves Negro thought that it was the most asinine thing to call us Black. They were like, why would you call yourself a color? As a matter of fact, being called Black was actually like fighting words. You know what I'm saying? So we went from Negro in the 60s, 50s, 60s to Black. And then in 88, here comes Jesse Geronimo talking about we're going to now be African American. Now, during this time, we had pushback as well. I wish I could find this documentary, and they were talking about it. They were talking about how they didn't want to be called African American, and then some people were saying, "Well, I like the term." It was a whole lot because remember, let's look at the timeline. Hear me out. 50s and 60s, they introduced Africa to Black Americans as a whole. That's when the slavery story come into the schoolhouse. Okay? So look, 50s and 60s, late 50s, early 60s, they introduced the idea of slavery from West Africa. The 70s, they dropped what? Roots. In the meantime of the 70s, we're getting this Africa at once the people of the 50s and the 60s grew to be teenagers and adults in the 70s and 80s, they had the idea we're from Africa. So now that's when you see the big push of dashikis, you see the big push of Africa this, Africa that. You see Africa all over the place. So it would make sense in 88 coming off the hills, because this is the same group of people who was taught in the 50s and the 60s that we come from Africa. The people before them did not have this in their school curriculum, which most Black people didn't go to school for the most part in those times. It was very few Black people that were attending schools for real. Okay? So 88, here comes Jesse Jackson over here hollering, oh yeah, we're going to be African American. Now to that group of people, that's a great idea because think about it. We already believe that we come from Africa. We've been taught this probably middle school, elementary school, all the way up through high school. So when Jesse Jackson running for president in 88 and he like, yo, why don't we just be African Americans? Everybody was like, bet. You know what it's reminiscent of? Think about today. Right off the cusps, hear me out, of shout out to Dane and Tanisha Calloway. Shout out to Top Cats. Shout out to the people, the brothers who've been outside talking this stuff. Right off the cusp of Black Americans starting to realize we actually have indigenous roots to America. What's the new term we call ourselves now? Put it in the chat. We just keep in mind, we just figuring out that we're not from Africa. We actually have indigenous roots right here. Now, what's the new term that come out by somebody? Thank you, Mia. Do you see the coincidence? Listen, hear me out. And this is no shade to nobody, but I got to say this part. These people who are coming up with these names for us, the people who are coming up with these names for us are moving with the times. They're moving with the knowledge, right? So in the 70s and the 80s, those were a group of teenagers and young adults who believed thoroughly that we were African American because they taught us Africa in the 50s and the 60s. Now, here come the 80s. These are the people that are able to vote. And they're teaching their kids we from Africa. All the movies is Africa. All the clothes is Africa. We got Africa earrings, Africa this, Africa that. So then it was right on time to call us African American. But then fast forward to 2020, I'll say 2, 3, 4. I don't know when he came up with the term, but they ain't never been on this. Now that the people are starting to realize the African thing is not true, now someone else comes along, and I'm not calling them Jesse Jackson. I'm just saying that there's a parallel. You get it? Now that the information has changed, and then here comes somebody else saying, hey, we're actually foundational Black Americans. Coincidence? Maybe, but y'all know how I feel about coincidences. Okay? Yes, Dane does use the term Niji as friend, or, you know, whatever the case may be. But Dane also says that us all as a one don't have one term, because we all come from tribes, okay? If you find out you're indigenous, you're going to understand. Somebody in the chat might be Cherokee. Somebody in the chat might be Choctaw. Somebody in the chat might be Shoki. Somebody, you see what I'm saying? Now, if we want to get us one blanket term, then fine. I'm cool with that. We can vote on it, whatever. But these terms keep coming from these places every time the information changes. And I just find that to be a little coinkadink. Because at the end of the day, Dane Calloway, his wife, and all these other brothers, Top Cats and all them dudes, been on this. But now that the information is updating, you get it. So I'm talking too much. Let's get into this whole African American push thing that was going on with Brother Jesse Geronimo. Y'all get the likes up on the video.
In the arrival of the first enslaved Africans in Virginia, standard terminology to describe Africans living in America was colored or Negro. For over 360 years, as Blacks were relegated to second-class citizenship, terms that reinforced oppression have been used to describe them. But as centuries pass, Black people have at times fought to break free from derogatory labels. After the Civil War, several Black people dispensed with the names given them by their former enslavers. This would continue even into the 1900s, when, during the height of the Civil Rights Movement, Black leaders strongly rebelled against Jim Crow labels. But for mainstream America, a major turning point came in the late 1980s. On this day in 1988, a group of Black leaders, including Reverend Jesse Jackson and representatives from the NAACP, met to discuss the national Black agenda. It was here that Jackson and his peers catapulted the term African American into the country's lexicon. The term has been used since the 1970s, but never gained widespread acceptance until after this Chicago convention. Reverend Jackson said, "To be called African Americans has cultural integrity. It puts us in our proper historical context. Every ethnic group in this country has a reference to some land base, some historical cultural base. African Americans have hit that level of cultural maturity." Jackson stated that other races could connect their heritage to their mother countries with a sense of pride and acceptance. The term rose to prominence because it was considered more appropriate than Black or colored. But we are now seeing a growth in popularity of the term Black, this time for a different reason. Following George Floyd's murder last year, the New York Times announced it would be capitalizing the B in Black to describe people and cultures of African origin in the US and elsewhere. This is something heavy about the word Black and how we as a people were able to take something meant for our ridicule and turn it into Black power. And that is for the culture. Thank you for watching Prime, and good night.
So, as you can see, mind you, this is all around the time Jackson is running for president. He's doing all these conventions. He got all this other stuff going on. And he really, listen, nobody wins without the Black vote. We just seen that. Like, we literally just seen that. He needed to rally up Black people, and he had a great core audience to do that, because these were the people who this is the first group of Americans, Black Americans, who really believed and thoroughly knew that we were from Africa. Okay? So it makes sense. Now, this was the part that got me though. While Jesse Jackson over here calling us Africans and all of that, he was a whole Cherokee Indian. I need somebody out here to make this make sense for me. He was an entire Cherokee Indian over here pushing to us that we African. And I don't understand that. I really don't. I think that Well, I understand it when I know what was really going on, because what was happening was he was ushered in to give us a new term to put us on whatever wave they wanted us on. Okay. And that's just unfortunate. But the people were not really feeling this whole, well, they had some that was feeling, some that wasn't. But the point I'm making is they used a black man, and this sounds so eerily similar. This sounds so eerily similar. I swear I'm not trying to be like shady, but this is, now that I'm thinking about it as I'm talking, it's so eerily similar. But they ushered in another black man, Brother Jesse, to get on here and say that we're African American, and we all just went with the move. Damn it, that's eerily similar. Damn, ain't it? Y'all don't see that? But this fool was a whole Cherokee Indian, and I thought that was strange to me, because how in the hell is you gonna say, oh yeah, we African American, but you running around with a Cherokee Indian card? Oh yes, he actually is a actual like locked in like official Cherokee Indian. I thought that was so crazy to me. Let me get this this thing up on him being Indian, because I thought that was just extremely crazy to me. Hold on, before I get to this article of Don't Call Me African, y'all get the likes up on the video. Where's that damn? Before we get into that part, I want to get into. Nope. It might be this one. Not that one. Shoot. I'm sorry, y'all. I could just pull it up again. I don't know what I did with that Cherokee Indian situation. All right. So, like I was saying, while Jesse Jackson was running around here claiming that he was so-called African American, he really, on the low, was a Cherokee Indian. And even Wikipedia has this, and you know that's big when Wikipedia got it. You know what I'm saying? Oh shoot, I pulled up too high. All right. Oh gosh. It says, y'all take a look at this. Oh, I ain't sharing the screen. Sorry, y'all. My bad. Even Wikipedia says his ancestry includes Cherokee, enslaved African Americans, Irish plantation owners, and a Confederate sheriff. Robinson was a former boxer, and was an employee of a textile brokerage and well-known figure. All right. He was a card-carrying Cherokee, giving us the name African American. That's ridiculous. It's just so eerily similar. I don't know why. Let's move on. Maybe it's my intuition. It's just too eerily similar. But yeah, he was a Cherokee Indian. He understood his Cherokee Indian traits. He knew who he was, but out here telling us who we ain't or who we are. That's crazy to me. I think that was done by design. I think that he's an agent, and I think that he was told to do that. Yeah. I think that was done on purpose. I feel it in my bones. It was done on purpose. I can't use this one because I'm not signing up for these doggone articles. They be asking you to sign up for all types of stuff. I want to read a little bit of this article called "Don't Call Me African American." Now this article is from actually 1988. I want to say. No, this is the one from 2012. I think I had one from 1988. But I just want to give you a little bit out this article called Don't Call Me African American, right? It says, in 1988, Reverend Jesse Jackson convinced Americans' Black population to adopt the term African American. It has stuck for 24 years, but in recent months, a significant number of African Americans have clamored to drop the African and go back to just Black. As the African Union begins the African diaspora to a summit in South Africa on 25 May. Our correspondent Leslie Goff looks at the arguments for and against dropping the African from African American. I think that was the biggest mistake we could have made because, first of all, it ties us up to a whole continent, not a country. And then secondly, it makes us even more confused than we were before. Because at least when we knew we were here and from here, we could at least just focus on tracing that lineage and indigenous history here. But now that you put us in Africa, a lot of people like to chase their ancestry through Africa. And the facts of the matter is they never can. 99.9% of Black Americans who go through that ancestry.com and spit in the tube or however they do it, they can never trace their ancestry back to Africa. All they get is they say, oh yeah, your DNA sequence matches here. That's because it's not true. Your DNA sequences matches here because this is where you're from, not Africa. They can never connect you with family in Africa. Ridiculous. So I want to get to this part. It says this past December, 200 Black mayors from Europe, the US, Africa, and the Caribbean met in Dakar for the World Summit for Mayors Leaders Conference. Organized jointly by NCBM of the United States and the National Association of Sinhalese Mayors. The conference saw the 43 African American mayors in attendance promising to do all they could to encourage economic development in Africa. Don't we always do that? Why are we so busy worried about economic shit in Africa and we ain't got it here? These pockets of African people scattered around the world, said Chiki Sidi Diarra, the UN Special Advisor on Africa, can now play a significant role in Africa's growth, development, and empowerment. I want to scroll down because I don't really care about this. Hold on. Let me get to the part where I want to go. Okay, here we go. We up here right here. It says, far from coming closer together, these naysayers would like to keep Africa at its arm's length. It says, and cast off all things African, including the name African American, a name Black Americans adopted 24 years ago at the urging of Jesse Jackson. Black does not describe our situation, Jackson said in 1988. Speech encouraging Black Americans to drop Black and replace it with African. We are African American heritage, Jackson forcefully argued. None of them identify us. Black don't identify us. That's why Tyreek has to put foundational in front of it. And African don't. Both of them leave us in the dark. So I'm wondering, because remember, when we had names, they stripped our names from us, which is our tribal names, and made us all one big Negro. So are these people sent here to continue to cause this confusion? Because we're gonna get to the rainbow push here in a second. Something in the milk ain't clean with this whole thing. Something in the milk is not clean. Like, it's just so cool. I'm gonna just call it a coincidence because I'm gonna just call it a coincidence. But none of those things describe us, period. It says, though the term was adopted by many, many others, continue to resist it and reject it. Among them is Gilbrey George, a 38-year-old businessman in Florida. He says, I'm not African American, insists George, who set up a Facebook site called Don't Call Me African American. It goes on to say the site, which has had thousands of visitors, has made George a kind of folk hero to Black Americans who want nothing to do with Africa, a place they see as riven with disease and death and filled with dark memories of their slave past. We got to get out that part too. So if George and others do not want to be called African American, what do they want to be called? George says he would like to simply be called American. He would accept Black or perhaps person of color, but the term African American, George protests, just does not settle right in my stomach. Well, George, it doesn't, because none of those terms. I would rather just go back to American if we're going to do anything. But this whole African American crap, Black American crap, yeah, it's really not going to go. Where's that article I had from 88? Hold on one second. I think it's here you go. I think I already have this one open. Is that this one? Oh, that's the one that won't let me read. That want me to sign up. Man, this is an article from 88. Let me see if I can play the audio. Let me see. Can y'all hear this?
Good evening. Welcome to Black Perspectives, a half-hour feature focusing on Black issues, information, and lifestyles, and impacting on the city, and what role you've been playing on them, and what kinds of prognostications you can make about the welfare of the city as we move into the latter part of 1988.
Well, Charles, I know we only have a limited time on your program.
I don't have 30 minutes. 1 second, y'all. I'll come back to it. Sorry, guys. But none of those terms correctly define us. Literally none of those terms. I'll take the freedman term before anything for a blanket of us. I definitely take the freedman term without a doubt. Like, no questions asked. Because at least there were actual laws and some laws that mention freedmen, yeah. Thank you, Almond Brown, for becoming a member. Thank you so much. I like American too, but FBA, that's cool. I mean, I'm going with it because the masses is going with it, but I just don't think that's going to really be our benefit. But yeah, he wasn't worth the dime. Now I want to move to his coalitions and all of that. So Jesse Jackson had two major coalitions. One was the Black Leaders Push. I'm sorry, is that? Hold on one second. I think there's a video I have for y'all. Same one, my bad. There was one called the Push thing. Let me get it up here. Okay. The Rainbow Push Coalition. We're gonna get into that. Y'all remember he always talk about the Rainbow Coalition. So one of the, and I'm wondering too if that was used to, because the other thing, they got the rainbow thing now. I'm just wondering. It says Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson Sr., founder and president of Rainbow Push Coalition, is one of America's foremost civil rights, religious, and political figures. Over the past 40 years, he has played a pivotal role in virtually every movement for empowerment, peace, civil rights, gender equality. He was talking about that too? And President Bill Clinton, and economic and social justice. On August 9, 2000, President Bill Clinton awarded Reverend Jesse Jackson the Presidential Medal of Freedom Awards. It says the nation's highest civil honor. He has been called the conscience of the nation, the great unifier, challenging Americans to be inclusive and establish just and humane priorities for the benefit of all. Let's stop there. Red flag. It says it's giving spy tease. It's giving government tease. It says Reverend Jesse Jackson has been called the conscience of the nation and the great unifier, challenging Americans to be inclusive and to establish just and humane priorities for the benefit of all. He is known for bringing people together and on common grounds across lines of race, culture, class, gender, and belief. This is what we know. A lot of our so-called leaders, even Martin Luther King, had other agendas than what they pushed to us. Because why are we trying to be cohesive when we ain't figure out our stuff yet? But these are the people that, listen, I keep telling y'all, when the government gives you a leader, look into it. When the government pushes a leader, look into them. Because this right here is very suspect. How can Black people get anything if all we worried about is mingling and coexisting with everybody else? And the fact that they use our own people to push this, that's how they get us to buy into it. Because they use one of us and they know we're going to typically follow one of us. This is so eerily similar. Oh, let's move on. They know we're going to follow one of us. Damn. I'm trying, y'all. All right. It says, we don't care about the bio. For his work in human and civil rights and nonviolent social change, Reverend Jackson has received more than 40 honorary doctorate degrees. 40? and frequently lectures at major colleges and universities, including Howard, Yale, Princeton, Morehouse, Harvard, Columbia, Stanford, and Hampton. He was made an honorary fellow of Regent's Park College at Oxford University in the UK in November 2007 and received an honorary fellowship from Edge Hill University in Liverpool, England. Don't they all go to Europe? In March 2010, Reverend Jackson was inducted into England's prestigious Cambridge Union Society. In April 2010, he was awarded an honorary doctorate from University of KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa. In October 1997, Reverend Jackson was appointed by President Bill Clinton and Secretary of Madeleine Albright as special envoy of the President and Secretary of State for the promotion of democracy in Africa. We continuing working in Africa and ain't doing nothing here. Get all these civil rights leaders to go to Africa. In this official position, Reverend Jackson traveled to several countries on the African continent and met with such national leaders as President Nelson Mandela of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency Daniel T. Arap Moi of Kenya, and President Frederick J.T. Chiluba of Zambia. Reverend Jackson began his activism as a student in the summer of 1960, seeking to desegregate the local public library in Greenville, and then as a leader in the sit-in movement. In 1965, he became a full-time organizer for the SCLC. He was soon appointed by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to direct the Operation Breadbasket program. In 1971 of December, Reverend Jackson founded Operation Push, People United to Serve Humanity in Chicago, Illinois. The goals of Operation Push were economic empowerment and expanding educational, business, and employment opportunities for the disadvantaged and poor people and people of color. Sorry, I had to click on the thing to read the rest. And people of color. Where did I leave off? Okay. So basically, his Operation Push was allegedly supposed to give empowerment in education and economics and all this stuff, business opportunities, boom, 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 for people of color. Listen, when they use terms like people of color, be mindful. That means everybody but you. I know they like to group us in the minority section and group us in the people of color section, but who all benefits from these sections? Not us. But I noticed all these doggone leaders going over to Europe and coming back with this "we shall overcome, let's unite" type of situation. That's what is given to me, Meek. They're going over there for that. Look. They done all went over there. All of them. It's just a coincidence, though. Child. Let me get back to this article. It says his two campaigns broke new ground in U.S. politics. His 1984 campaign. Oh, did I read this other one? No, I didn't read this other paragraph. 1 second. In 1984, Reverend Jackson founded the National Rainbow Coalition, a social justice organization based in Washington, D.C., devoted to political empowerment, education, and changing of public policy. In September of 1996, the Rainbow Coalition and Operation Push merged to form the Rainbow Push Coalition to continue the work of both organizations and to maximize resources. Long before the national health care, war on drugs, direct peace negotiations between Palestinians and Israelis, ending apartheid in South Africa, and advancing democracy in Haiti became accepted public policy positions. It says Reverend Jackson advocated for them. That's another thing we find very, very suspicious. All of them have more invested interest in outside entities than here, because what we was worried about what was going on over there for when we had a whole lot of stuff going on over here. See, this is another way they give you a organization and say it's for you, but then take it and use it for everything but you. Because I don't understand for the life of me why they worry about what them people got going on over here. Well, we got a lot to worry about over here. But they use our names and our identities and our struggle to mask what they really doing behind the scenes. We see it with DEI. We saw it with affirmative action. We see it with all of this stuff. And they feed it to us like it's a thing for us. But it's never been nothing for us. And they use these figureheads to do just that. It's just ridiculous. It's just Reverend Jackson's advocacy on these and other issues helped bring the American public to a new level of consciousness. And you know what makes me mad too? This what makes me mad, because then these same people in 2025 will be like, I don't understand why y'all not helping up for us. Back in the day, Jesse Jackson used to talk and march for us. He helped up for us. Martin Luther King spoke up for us. I remember when this stuff first started popping off over there. And I remember a bunch of them people were saying, I don't understand why Black Americans not getting on board, because they were on board in the 60s with Martin Luther King. They were on board this time. They were on board that time. The civil rights movement always stood with them. They're right. We didn't stand with them. The movements stood with them. Used by these figureheads. We continue to get played. It's ridiculous. It's really, really ridiculous. Anyway, his two campaigns broke new ground in the U.S. politics. He had in 1984, his campaign registered over 1 million new voters, won 3.5 million votes, and helped the Democrat Party regain control of the Senate in 1986. His 1988 campaign registered over 2 million new voters, won several million votes, and helped boost hundreds of state and local elected officials into office. Additionally, he won historic victories, coming in first or second in 46 out of 54 primary contests. His clear progressive agenda and his ability to build an unprecedented coalition inspired millions to join the political process. He was mayor of DC in 91. Well, he was elected senator, of DC in 91, advocating for statehood for the nation's capital and advancing the rainbow agenda at the national and international levels. Fed. It's giving Fed tease. Speaking of Fed tease, let's move on over here. So Jesse Jackson, so far what we know about him is he's a Cherokee Indian, giving us the name of African American while he put his Cherokee Indian card in his pocket. He also went overseas to Europe, like they all do, to go over there and learn and then come back and push for this geopolitical power, even though we don't have none here. Then he gets the Rainbow Coalition and the Push organization and push them two together, because the whole time they was worried about Africa, Israel, and all them other people, everybody except niggas. And he was rewarded handsomely, financially, allegedly. And we celebrate him today. When the people give you a leader, look into him. That's all I'm going to say. When the people co-sign the leader, look into them. And typically they all point back to the same spot. Okay. Where was I going with this? Oh, so now we want to switch over to, let me make sure that's everything I got to say about that before we get to Martin Luther King. Let's switch over to the civil rights movement crap. Okay. So Jesse Jackson was allegedly also a part of the civil rights movement, right? He won a Nobel Peace Prize, and he loves to go down to the same hotel where Mike got popped. Okay, and reminisce on how he was there and the blood was on my shirt. You just had to be there because The blood was on my shirt as I held them tight to my bosom, and I said, hold on, Martin. And Martin said he wasn't going to be able to hold on no more. And I felt his soul leave his body. And I always think about it as I win my Nobel Peace Prizes and things of that nature. All type of kibbity cap. Ridiculousness is what it is. Let's get into him, child. Let's get into it. Hold on. I ain't even got it where y'all can see it. Hold on, child. Nerves better than a doggone two-year-old baby.
This direction because he was standing at an acute angle, and the bullet knocked him up off of his feet in that direction against that ledger over there. And it knocked him off of his feet. Yeah. And we turned around immediately because we didn't know how many bullets were coming. But we turned around looking, and we were looking to see where it come from because you couldn't tell. You couldn't tell it was a shot.
You didn't hear a shot?
No, until it hit his face. It sounded like a stick of dynamite or a large firecracker. And when we turned, all we could see was police coming. Police were coming from the direction of the shot. I said, Dr. King. That was it. I said, Dr. King, just as he straightened up. He said, Dr. King. And the bullet exploded in his face. And evidently it came from...
Child. I said, Dr. King. I said, Dr. King. According to the legend has it, he wasn't even there, child. I didn't say it. That's what they said. Girl, legend has it, he wasn't even there. I got a more recent. Is this one? Is this the one? No, that's the same one. I got a more recent interview where he talks about this as well. You can't make this stuff up. You literally cannot make this stuff up. These people are snakes in the grass, okay? These people are snakes in the grass. Please always remember that.
There were explosions all over the country.
Hold on. So y'all can see it. Hit the likes up on the video.
Explosions all over the country. We were trying to turn garbage into energy if you can discipline it. So our point was, don't just burn up where you live. There's some of the areas that were burned out are still burned out these many years later. Turn your anger into votes. You should turn your anger into boycotts. Turn your anger into opening school doors to close. Because if you spend more than you have, you get in debt. You vote less than you have. That's a formula for suicide. If you spend less than you have and vote all you can, that's a formula for power.
Let's be clear. The reason why a lot of these people urge Black Americans to vote is because they know that we are uneducated politically. And they know more than likely if we do vote, we're going to vote, you get it, their way, because we don't know no better. That's why these people continuously urge Black Americans to vote, because they know first of all, the mass majority of people as a whole are politically uneducated. Let's really talk about it. But they know that for sure, the mass number of Black Americans are not going to know how to vote and are going to default back to the masses, which is the Democratic vote. So when he say, turn your vote, turn your anger into a vote, that's to get the agenda to continue to push.
Called in the righteousness of our cause, and we're willing to suffer and sacrifice to that end. And nonviolence is both a strategy and a way of life. If we had been fighting with arms, we couldn't have battled in arms. Only to get this Nobel Prize. It was just it. So when I first went in physically, I was coming to Atlanta to speak at Morehouse as a member of the Omega Psi Phi fraternity. And he was coming.
So he a Q dog. So when he first met Kane, he was coming down there to be a speaker as an Omega Psi Phi fraternity. He was a Q dog. And you know they all the Freemasons and all of that. You know Mike is an alpha. So you got a Q and an alpha barking and clapping or whatever the alphas do, meeting up together. Coincidence? Maybe.
I'm into the airport with his group, only to get this Nobel Prize. It was just a thrill to see him. He saw me. He called my name, Jesse. It threw me off. Hi, Sam. He was talking about Dr. Sam Proctor, who he knew at Boston University, and they were good friends. He began how things going in Greensboro, how things at A&T, how things at Bennett. So the fact that he was, because we had been on television quite a bit during that time, during the Greensboro struggle. So I met him in that sense. To me, it depicted how sensitive he was, how aware he was of our struggle. I remember Ernie Green talking about when they graduated from Little Rock Central, he was at the graduation, not as a speaker, he was just there at the graduation. He was deeply immersed in the Southern struggle to end apartheid in the South. I remember the first time I was real close. We were in Selma. Reverend C.T. Vivian and I went by Miss Boynton's house where he was staying. He was lying in bed. He had by him Power and Justice by Paul Tillich, The Courage to Be by Paul Tillich, Nature and Destiny of Man by Niebuhr, and the Bible. I asked him about the books because I was in seminary at the time. He said, well, I read one fiction, one nonfiction book a week. He was deeply scholarly. As I often say to young people who catch on to that, I have their dream dimension of his life. Dr. King finished high school at 15. He finished Morehouse at 19. He finished seminary at 22, his PhD at 26. Deeply committed to scholarship. He knew the strong minds break strong chains. I would hear young people say, now, when did he become radical? To be in Montgomery, Alabama, a block from the Confederate Capitol and from the Confederate White House, and to call a boycott to dislocate that city in the South was a very radical move.
As you got to know him personally, what surprised you about him as a person?
His energy level and his reading habits and his willingness to open up to other people, to staff members, and to let ideas flow. Will you agree with him or disagree? Or suddenly he would just point blank, what do you see? His willingness to a kind of participatory democracy. He had a point of view, he had a conclusion, but that feature of him and his preparation, he used some tools.
Question: was Jesse Jackson a real reverend? Like, did he go to theologian school? Is that how you say it? I can't see nowhere to say what theological, because at least Martin went to a theological school. He studied it. Like Al Sharpton, is he a real rev? Or is that something they was putting in front of their name because they know people love the church? Jordan said, hell no. Bree said, yeah, I think so. I don't know, y'all. Y'all believe, put a one in the chat if you believe Al Sharpton a real rev. Girl, bye. I don't think none of these niggas real reverends for real. I ain't gonna lie, I don't see it.
It was kind of his off day. He spent Tuesday studying, reflecting upon what happened the last week and projecting. But he was quite sociable. I mean, he laughed a lot, with friends. What we call preacher jokes. So he was once a very personable guy. Many activists don't have much analysis. Many analysts don't have much action. He had the combination of action and analysis and preparation. He would say you must not have the paralysis of analysis. You can't just keep on talking, you have to act. But if you act without analysis, you don't know where you're going. And if you see it, but you don't act, you can't get there. So he saw the combination that led to power, and that power led to change.
He refers to his staff as a team of wild horses. There are a lot of strong personalities there. Can you talk about that?
We would have the right to argue and take positions. And he would say two things. One, we were a team of wild horses, and it was his job to take the energy and direct it. And sometime when the stuff would get hot on the inside of the staff, and he would say, well, we reflect in here what's out there. We cannot corral ourselves. We cannot corral the community. And so he saw that in some perspective. The other thing he would say that he was the pilot of the plane, but we were the ground crew. Without the ground crew, the plane cannot go from port to port, from arrival to departure. It cannot have the mechanical dimensions. So he had an appreciation of the field crew, and he saw himself as kind of guiding those forces. And he was more interested in building a kind of a tugboat as opposed to an ocean line. He didn't want a big organization per se. He didn't want a membership organization, so he could get bogged down and raising members. It was not the big ocean liner. He wanted to have a strike force that go into a given time and raise the issues, expose the contradictions, and had the courage to fight. I remember him telling me one time that he did not want to build a big building and leave it as a monument. Didn't want to have a lot of money left. He felt if any money were left, it would be a reflection on his leadership. That it was not about money. He believed that you should be materialistically minded enough to take care of basic essentials, but not mindless and materialistic and out for your stuff.
I don't know. Jesse, wait till I get the brother Steve Coakley up here. Wait till I get the brother Steve Coakley up here, because something in the milk ain't clean. I want to share something else with y'all. That was cool. He was a leader. He gambled. I'm just playing. I don't know if Martin gambled, but talking about he wasn't worried about no money. You a lie, because how them hoes got paid. I'm just playing. A little bit. Didn't I just send this thing to me? Hold on. Get the likes up, y'all. Oh, here you go. Yeah. It's on there. So this is more of the whole situation with the assassination, you guys. This is a very crazy time, and the accounts that people are talking about from the situation, it's very peculiar. I'll say that. Okay. Now this is Hosea Williams. This right here is Portia's granddaddy. Yes, ma'am. Y'all know Portia from the Housewives of Atlanta. This is her granddaddy, the one who's responsible for giving us Portia. Now I'm pretty sure I ain't never really heard much negativity about Hosea, but I'm pretty sure he was down at the freak offs, okay? Because they all was, and there's no shade on Portia, her grandpa, but they all was at the freak offs. It is what it is. But yeah, he's gonna give his account on the Jesse Jackson thing. Now, mind you, let me give y'all the tea. So Hosea was real close with Martin. And he, they weren't too keen of the Jesse boy. You feel what I'm saying? And he had some reservations in the whole thing. And he expressed said reservations. I don't know if he's going to do it in this clip because this is a short clip, but there's a clip around him talking about how Jesse wasn't even around there. Jesse full of crap. Martin didn't, you know what I'm saying? Like a whole bunch of stuff. And you know what's crazy? I want to say this, y'all. This is about to sound crazy, but I gotta say it. I'm coming to realize that the Underground Railroad really was underground. I'm coming to realize Portia really wasn't that crazy. The Underground Railroad allegedly was really underground.
It's survival. I get somebody lied. Smells like somebody lied.
It was all a lie. Guys, it was all a lie. She lied.
Is you cool? Allegedly. So while we was dragging Portia, in that particular situation, Portia probably was trying to spill tea without. She probably was trying to say something that her granddaddy told her. He would have he would have more of an insight on it. Maturing is realizing the people you think is crazy sometimes ain't that crazy. Right, Tiny. Whole time we thought Portia was dumb, she was spilling tea. Girl. I already know that Portia's slow, but she ain't that slow. Nikki said, yeah, she thought it was a whole train, real train, and a conductor and everything. Boo. That's what's alleged what it was. Allegedly, that's what it was. I would never feel comfortable knowing in my head that I owe Portia an apology. Damn. But I gotta be honest. Oh, there definitely was a train. Oh, no. Remember, hold on, get me on here. Let me say something. There was definitely a train because guess what? Black Americans were the inventors, the builders, and everything for the trains. The clear people stole it from us. Didn't we talk about this? Yeah, we kind of mentioned it a little bit when we were talking about the slave work that they put the people that was going to jail in. I hate my brain. When we were talking about when they first introduced the whole so-called prison system, and they were using the slaves, instead of calling them slaves, they were calling them prisoners, and then they would make them build all the railroad tracks and all that stuff. In that video, if I could go back and find it, but in that, the chain gang and all, yeah, in that video, those trains, I mean, those railroads, the clear people who got the idea, monopolized on it, got it from Black Americans that they had already found. Convict leasing, thank you so much. Convict leasing, yes. So the clears bought it above ground. As a matter of fact, let me back that up. They didn't bring it above ground. Black Americans in Atlanta bought it above ground. You know the subway? Anybody ever heard of a subway? Are y'all okay? Has anybody ever heard of a subway? It sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy that I'm saying it. Okay. Black Americans in Atlanta were the first to bring it above the ground. And then the clears realized it was a very efficient way to move for transit goods, They got the monopoly on it, and they expanded it using Negroes from Atlanta, and then they started getting other Negroes through convict leasing all over America, and they expanded the railroads from Atlanta all around the world. Fact. Go look that part up. I know they tell y'all the Asians was the ones building the railroad. That's a lie. It was us. He sure did. He sure did. You're absolutely right. Hold on. Robin Thicke says Kendrick exposed it in Not Like Us. He sure did. What's the part where he said, once upon a time all of us was in chains. Once upon a time all of us was in chains. And this nigga still doubled down calling us some slaves. Atlanta was the Mecca building railroads and trains. Bear with me and for a minute, I'm going to put y'all on game. That's what he said. Atlanta was the Mecca building railroad and trains. Bear with me for a second. I'm going to put y'all on game. Man, watch out. We've been lied to, y'all. We've been lied to. They done lied to us. They lied. Get the survival up here. Because it really is survival as a Black American.
It's survival. I guess somebody lied. Smells like somebody lied.
It was all a lie. Guys, it was all a lie. She lied.
Girl, them people played in our face. Now we over here calling Portia slow as a turtle, and the whole time we the only tortoise on the block. That's big. That's big. We calling Portia slow as a turtle, and we over here with the hard shells on the back. That's crazy work. Anyways, I don't even want to get too much into it because that's a whole nother conversation. But anyway, I'm just saying, Portia might have been on to something saying, oh, it wasn't in the ground. Portia? What your granddaddy told you? Anyway, she did tell us, look, I can hear Portia now. Soon as Black America find out that she wasn't lying or she wasn't crazy and she wasn't stupid, I can hear Portia now because I know I do it.
I told y'all niggas. Y'all thought I was playing, but I told y'all niggas.
Girl, if I was Portia, that'll be me every day. Soon as we catch on to it like a collective, that'll be me. I told y'all niggas. Y'all thought I was dumb, but I told y'all niggas. Hell yeah. Let's get into Hosea and this Jesse Jackson and all of that stuff. What was going on? Because I'm pretty sure she done talked to her grandpa.
We were discussing the Washington movement, Poor People Campaign in Washington. And that afternoon, we were in the meeting, and someone said, Reverend Billy Kyles is outside, and he's upset. And Dr. King said, oh my God, I forgot to tell y'all. I promised his wife, who's supposed to be a great soul food cooker, we'd have our feet on her table at 5:30. Now it's 5:45, and we sit in the meeting. Dr. King said, everybody rush. And get ready in a hurry. Let's go. So I ran down and got to my room. My key wouldn't open my door for some strange reason. The limousine that had been loaned to us, I opened my door. I could touch the limousine. And finally, I heard the driver tell Dr. King, Dr. King, I advise you get your top coat because even though I have the car on, it's still chilly. And the last words he said in this world, okay, Jonesy, I'll get my top coat. And I heard this thing say, bow. And I honestly thought someone had thrown a firecracker into the air. And I looked around to rebuke whoever was that stupid. And I heard something, bloop, fell up above my head. And I looked up and his leg was sticking through the rail. Dr. King only wore one type of sock and one type of shoe. And I knew that was him. I said, oh my God, they got it. And
I just have a question, Brother Jose, Elder Jose, Ancestor Jose. So according to Jose, they was on their way going out to eat. They were supposed to had their feet under some woman's table at 5:30. First question, where was the woman who was staying downstairs with Mike? She had her own room, but I would like to know. Then all of a sudden, he getting in the car and the doggone driver says, I think you need to go get a top coat. And then immediately, coincidentally, he gets popped. This seems like an orchestrated thing with a multitude of people. This doesn't seem like a one-person situation. It seems like a lot of people were participants in this. Now, it could be a coincidence that the driver really did want him to go get a coat. But Jose Key wasn't working, so he fiddling with his dough. Yeah, let's move on, because I don't want nobody to get upset, child.
And then I had to run about 50 feet down and back up, and I got to him. And Ralph was holding his head, and Andy was there. And a guy from Africa who had been traveling with us as a newsman from Africa. We found out later on he was working for the CIA, or the FBI, working for the FBI. And he had taken a lot of pictures.
So some African was traveling with them talking about they're going to take pictures, and whole time he was an FBI informant. Listen, this shit is layered. It ain't one person. You got to understand, back in those days when they used to co-opt our movements or infiltrate our movements, the FBI, the CIA, they would hire conflicting people to go in on the same operation. Or the FBI can hire conflicting people itself to go in on the same operation. It's a web. So like, for instance, you could be working next to somebody and don't know that they are fed, but the whole time you are fed. You see what I'm saying? And they don't know you are fed. So the African came in, supposed to be taking pictures. He ended up being a fed. Bruh.
Dr. King, and I grabbed him in the throat and started choking him because the bullet hit Dr. King right here, and it went round and cut his medulla oblongata. And I didn't want people to remember Dr. King with half his face shut off. So Andy ran and got a towel, and somehow or another they took one more picture after I made him enter that camera, and it shows Dr. King down with a towel on his face. But I'm gonna tell you, I was an expert gunner in World War II. When I ran up on that balcony, and I looked from whence that bullet had to come, the distance of that bullet, and just could feel the wind blowing that day. I say, whomever shot that rifle was one of the best in the world. He shot one bullet. And I believe if Dr. King hadn't moved to go back and get his top coat, the bullet would have hit him between the eyes. The bullet hit him right here. But what happened, and then Ralph said, we'll go in and take him on to the hospital. Jose, you get all the staff together. 3 of us saw it, Dr. King, after he was shot. 3 SLC executive staff members. Andy, Abernathy, and Jose Williams. Those are the 3 that saw that body. Now listen to that. So I got in the yard, and I was about to lose my crew because I was thinking if I could take some molecules out there and make me some guns and kill me some white folks. And one man said, now be cool. You're doing the same thing you promised me you'll never do. And I started crying, and then I heard Jesse Jackson say, he told me, Jesse, take our people onto the mountaintop. And that didn't bother me, even though I know Jesse got nowhere near him. And then Jesse said, I held his head in my hand while he died. And that didn't get to me. And then Jesse said, look at my shirt. And I looked around, sure enough, and Jesse Jackson's shirt was drenched in blood.
Now hold on. He said only 3 people was around Martin when he got popped. Him, Ralph Abernathy, and who was the other person he said put it in the chat? He said only 3 people. Remember, this is a theme for Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson always showed up for the pictures and the photo ops, but he was never there for the real stuff. He's the only one saying this about him. But he said he looked over and Jesse already in front of the doggone cameras and all of that, telling Andy Young, thank you so much, McD. Jesse already in front of the camera talking about he wanted me, Jesse Jackson, to pick up the baton and go on forward. Then he said something else. I'm going to rewind it. But the part was, he said he looked over and Jesse had blood on his shirt. How the hell Jesse get blood on his shirt? I'm going to rewind it one more time. Because I'm telling you, this is a common theme amongst Black America when it comes to Jesse. And we're going to get into Brother Steve Coakley. But let me say this. This is the reason why you should not allow your children's only history to be taught to them by the schools. Because when you talk to your grandparents, you get a whole different view of stuff than the schoolhouse teach you. And they got us so much brainwashed that we rather believe what the school said than what our grandparents said. When they have more wherewithal to know than anybody. Like for instance, we all went through the panorama. If the schoolhouse in 30 years go back and say, oh, the panorama really wasn't that bad. It was kind of like, okay, we didn't keep people on lockdown, but only for like 2 weeks. And then your grandchildren come to you later and say, well, hey, Granny, was you around for the panorama? And I go, yeah. And then she said, how was it? Girl, they had us locked down for months, damn near a year. We had to get shots to go here. We had to get shots to go. Could you imagine your grandchild looking at you acting like you lying because the school said something different? This is why we have to be the teachers of the history to our children, because they done been lying to us like dogs. They've been lying to us like dogs. And we so busy indoctrinated by the school system that even when the elders try to tell us stuff, we don't want to hear it.
Jesse, take our people on to the mountaintop.
Let me back it up.
And then I heard Jesse Jackson say that Jose Williams. Those are the three.
Who all was there?
3 of us saw it after he was shot. 3 SLC executive staff members. Andy, Abernathy, and Jose Williams.
Right.
Those are the 3 that saw that body. Now listen there. So I got in the yard and I was about to lose my crew because I was thinking if I could take some molecules out there and make me some guns and kill me some white folks. And one man said, now be cool. You're doing the same thing you're promising me you'll never do. And I started crying. And then I heard Jesse Jackson say, he told me, Jesse, take our people on to the mountaintop. And that
now, why? This is what I want to know. Why would why would Martin tell Jesse Jackson of all the people around him that I want you to take the people to the mountaintop? Red flag. Think about it. All the people that Martin was close with, all of his constituents that he was cool with, the ones he used to go play pool with, hang out with, that knew him best. Mind you, Jesse did not know him like that. Why, of all people, would he tag Jesse Jackson to be the one to move forward? That doesn't make sense. Let's move on.
That didn't bother me, even though I know Jesse got nowhere near him. And then Jesse said, I held his head in my hand while he died. And that didn't get to me. And then Jesse said,
he lied and said he held Martin's head in his hand when he died. Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, man. I don't know if his family liked Jesse because I've never heard them really speak on Jesse. Yeah, they were both feds for sure. Let's be clear. Let's really be clear about this. See, we got to understand. I said they'll take 2 different people from that are feds and put them together and each other will never know. Oh, they both was definitely feds. That's a Fendi fact. But the fact that, you know what I mean? Like, Jesse will go as low as to say he done held this man's head in his lap. That's cold, bro. That's cold. That's cold-blooded. But he said that's the part that didn't get to him.
Said, look at my shirt. And I looked around, sure enough, and Jesse Jackson's shirt was drenched in blood. And I realized the only way Jesse could have gotten that blood was stoop down on that floor at the Lorraine Motel and rake that blood off that floor and put that blood on him. And I went crazy. I really tried to kill him.
Damn. Because they had done taken the body already to the hospital. So what Hosea Williams is saying is the only way Jesse could have got blood on his shirt is if he got down on the ground, took up the blood, and wiped it on his shirt. Bruh, that is some starch, crazy, weird, damaging, horrible dog shit. That is crazy. This the one they telling us, oh, this is your leader. Crazy. He's saying because Martin was already gone. The only way he could, that's Damn. That's crazy work, bro.
Jesse. They grabbed us and all that, but that hurt me so bad. The other thing was, when Abernathy came back, says, no need of prayer, no need of cry, no need of nothing. He is going, it's over. He's going to glory. And we called the meeting, the staff meeting, and Jesse claimed to have been ill. And Abernathy told him, Jesse, go ahead to the room and relax. Jesse had to have run like hell that room into that airport because he got out of Memphis to Chicago. All us feeling, everybody was still in the motel. Cut the televisions on the next morning. That was Jesse Jackson in Chicago with that same bloody shirt on.
Damn. Wait. So what Hosea Williams is saying is, so they go to have a meeting after that. Jesse holla, I'm sick. So Abernathy told him, well, go ahead on, go lay down. He said he must have hightailed it straight to the airport because when they got home later on that evening, Jesse Jackson was in a whole nother city with the same shirt with blood on the shirt. Girl. Now, this is a good question, Diva. Diva says, who travels with a bloody shirt? Who said he got on a commercial flight? Remember, he works for the feds. How he gonna run through an airport with a bloody shirt on? This is just me, conspiracy theory. But remember, he works for the feds. He's not gonna be able to go through an airport with a bloody shirt and nobody gonna say nothing. He could have been on a private flight. I'm just saying. But I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, he could have taken it off and put it back on. That's possible. But they said he was there. Listen, look. Listen to how he said how fast Jesse done got back to the doggone to the other state. Hold on.
Jesse had to have run like hell that room into that airport because he got out of Memphis to Chicago. All us feeling, everybody was still in the motel. Cut the televisions on the next morning. That was Jesse Jackson in Chicago.
Can we also be honest too? I don't know if a lot of y'all grew up, or a lot of y'all did. Back in the day, the news wasn't live. Y'all do know that, right? So, especially in the 60s, even the 70s, I want to say the news didn't start going live until the last, 20, maybe 10, 20 years. So think about it. Hold on. We got to add this part in. The news wasn't broadcast live. They would tape and then they would play it, right? So, if they got up the next morning and seen Jesse on the news, it's possible Jesse could have taped that the night before. It's possible. I mean, he could have, waited at an airport, changed the shirt, put the shirt back on, boom, boom, boom. But we do know that if they saw it in the morning, it was taped before that. If they got up in the morning and saw Jesse on the news, it was definitely taped before that. That's just a little element I want to add into that.
With that same bloody shirt on, telling that same lie. I've never respected Jesse since that moment. When they shot Dr. King, a black guy come running around that corner saying, he went that way. James Earl Ray no more killed Dr. King and I killed him. And everybody knew it. He was a Patsy set up. And the guy said, went that way. I said, who went that way? He said, that man ran out that building and dropped the rifle on the sidewalk and jumped in a white Mustang, had a red Alabama tag and took off. Well, hell, I wasn't worried. That's no car in America look like a Mustang, but a Mustang, a white with red Alabama tag. Where's he going? The police have him like that. And I asked that rifle was left on that sidewalk. That was the rifle that James Earl Ray had purchased, but that was.
So basically what he was saying, y'all, was there was a lot of cap around this situation. Jesse Jackson was not close to Martin Luther King. I know they got pictures of them together, but that don't mean nothing. Jesse and Martin were not that close. So much so for him to say Martin wanted me to be the one to move on with the message, that's cap. That's cap. And then on top of that, for him to have blood on his shirt and Martin wasn't even there, that's disgusting. That's disgusting. And I don't blame Hosea Williams. I wouldn't rock with that nigga either. That's a snake in the grass. That's a snake in the grass. But you know, the school system will have you thinking that he was just this amazing leader for Negroes. Thank you, Almond Brown, for the super chat. You on fire today. It makes a lot of sense to expose that stuff. Hit the like. Yes, hit the like button. And thank you so much. No, seriously, because listen, the reason I got into this, like trying to figure out what really happened, is because I am a history buff. I went to college and took every single history you could take. And when I started realizing just being on YouTube, shit be lies, I was like, what? So now I'm invested because I spent years and money trying to learn history that was all lies. So that's what I be doing with these Educational Friday. It's crazy though. It's crazy. Again, it goes back to my dream. Y'all remember about my dream at the TV studio backstage? And the people dressed like aliens said, what? It's all staged. They say everything, civil rights movement, the wars. In the dream, I ran across these people, and I asked them about it, and this is what the people said. Hold on, let me get the people on here. When I asked them what was going on in history, this is what the people said.
It was all a lie. Guys, it was all a lie. She lied.
Girl. So when I be doubting stuff, y'all, maybe it's from the dream. I don't know. But Jesse Jackson wasn't worth the dime. He wasn't. But I could tell because he was too cute. And he was in the military. And was he in the military? No. He was a Q dog. And he a fake rev. Now I want to get to the real truth teller. No shade, ancestor Jose. But I got to get to the real truth teller. Our great ancestor brother, Steve Coakley, the most underrated leader we had. Listen, the most, well, I'll say second to Malcolm. One of the most underrated leaders and lecturers Black America had. Now, brother Steve Coakley he's of that generation that we come from Africa. So you're going to see him maybe use African references, or you see the dashiki, because that's that generation that were taught about Africa. So we got to charge it to the game. We can't charge it to their heart. They didn't know. I think that if brother Steve Coakley would have stayed alive longer, I think his information would have updated, and I think he would have talked about it. But at the time, brother Steve Coakley was on that Africa thing, but I don't charge it to his heart. I charge it to the game because he was taught that, okay? Now, oh, girl, he used to give the Boule the blues. Oh, girl, the stuff he used to, the Boule lectures, I watched one of his Boule lectures twice. The one about where he confronted the man. Who it was he said he confronted? I watched one of his Boule lectures twice, and he be giving 3-hour lectures. Like, I love Steve Coakley. Now he's going to give us his perspective on the Jesse Jackson situation. He's going to cover a few things in this 30-minute clip. But I'm bringing him up because one thing about brother Steve Coakley is he's well researched. He's very knowledgeable. Very knowledgeable. Rest in peace. And he spoke of what he learned in his research and what he knew. He wasn't biased. He didn't cut no corners. He was just straight up and down, like that nigga. I don't mean to call him a nigga, but that black man. He was also good friends with Khalid Muhammad too. That's a whole nother story for another day. But let's get into what he had to say about Jesse. Listen, this is why I said we need to teach our children our history, because the school gonna tell y'all Jesse Jackson was the best thing since sliced bread, when that's obviously not the truth.
Proctor is the one who was picked to replace Martin King, but Jesse is the one he trained. If you had spent all this time on putting him in place, and you ain't got nobody else around Martin. Now, Andy was supposed to be shot with Martin, but Andy wasn't on the balcony. He was on the floor, so he didn't get it. Ralph.
Now, mind you, what Hosea just said, he said, it won but three people around Martin after he got popped. Me, Ralph, Abernathy, and Andy. Now, he about to give you the tea. Peep it out. Now, he said Andy was supposed to get popped with Martin, but Andy wasn't up there. He was downstairs. Look.
Was inside, so he didn't get it.
Let me back him up a little bit.
Key point, didn't get it. All this time on putting him in place, and you ain't got nobody else around Martin. Now, Andy was supposed to be shot with Martin, but Andy wasn't on the balcony. He was on the floor, so he didn't get it. Ralph was inside, so he didn't get it. Key point, if you spend all that time, and Martin's about to say you are agent, do you understand that you got to press go on the assassination? Because now Martin is so continuously condemning you, you got wiretaps everywhere. And we know what he said about Jesse in front of everybody, but who knows what he said when it was just him and Ralph? How much more severe was his accusations? Such that if you didn't kill Martin, of white limitations don't.
Hold on. So what Brother Steve is saying is Mike didn't rock with no Jesse. As a matter of fact, he done said a lot of stuff about Jesse, said that he was a Fed, said that they found wiretaps, all type of stuff. So why would Jesse jump up and be like, oh, he wanted me to take the lead and move on? Martin didn't even like you, my nigga. Like, he didn't even rock with you. He thought you was a Fed and a police. And he should know because he was one too. A Fed know a Fed. Crazy work.
Don't run out on murder. Okay, let's let this run, and then we're going to go back and look at it again in straight speed. Look at.
He won a few times.
Look at Jesse. Martin still won't acknowledge him.
Usually says the speech he was covered.
Yes, go back. Now I ask you, when you look at it, is that Jesus or Judas? Jesus or Judas?
He won a few times without saw him visibly shaking himself.
Yo, I never noticed Martin gave him the cold shoulder from that speech. And Jesse was trying to act like they was cool. Mike wasn't fucking with that nigga.
Nobody would touch him.
Caught up in it. But
just let it run. Now we're on the day of. Now Jesse done went and told them, look, you better move now.
Reteaching, not violence.
I'm running out of time. This the last song. They brought him on the balcony at 3:06.
I said, oh.
He was shot with a 30-06.
Said, oh, no, I called the house and dinner is not until 6. So we are in no hurry. I said, oh, my goodness.
Where my numerology people at? The room number was 3:06. The dinner was at 6. Where my numerology people at? Y'all be on this stuff. Again, I don't know much about numerology, but I know enough to know the numbers when they sound real suspect. The room number was 3:06, and they were supposed to be meeting for dinner at 6. Remember, Hosea said that they were supposed to be there at 5:30, but at 5:45, he said, oh, snap. He said, I'm supposed to have my feet under this lady's table at 5:30. Let's just all go grab a coat or something and go make it down to this dinner. So I'm assuming he must have called the lady and was like, hey, we running late. I'll be there for 6. But the room is 3:06. Yep, Masonic ritual. Yeah, absolutely.
But by doing that, it gave me the wonderful privilege of spending the last hour of his life in room 306. He and Ralph Abernathy and myself. Then he and I were on the balcony. Ralph was still inside. And he was greeting people he had not seen.
I was in the parking lot, and we were suggesting that it was cool And maybe he ought to go back and take a top coat with him, just in case.
I heard him above me.
It's my man Hosea.
And we had a limousine. I could touch the limousine, had been loaned to us by one of the local funeral homes. And I heard a voice, the guy who was driving the limousine. He said, "Dr. King." Dr. King said, "Yes." He said, "Although the car is on, it's chilly. I recommend you get your coat." And the last word he said in this was, "Okay, Joe, get my coat." And I was like, "Pow!"
Stop. Oh, stop. Go back. Key point. Let's go back. There's the maid right there we were looking for. There's the cart. Oh. Okay, let's freeze it at the highest point where Jesse's back is in the pit. Right there. Stop. There we go. There's Jesse Jackson. There's the maid. There's the cart. There's the white boy, Lau, L-A-U-E, head of the community strike, a member of the Community Relations Service of the Justice Department, which spies on racial tension. His boss was Roger Wilkins, the nephew of Roy Wilkins. There's Muriel McCullough, the FBI, CIA, Memphis Police Department informant, who now works for the CIA. There's Martin King laying there with the towel over his face. Brother, I appreciate this pointer. This really helped out a lot. There's Ralph. There's Andy. Now, why is Jesse running up this way when everybody else came up that stairway and went that way? Because he...
Wait, did he say this, Jesse? I think, put it in the chat. Did he, yes or no? Did he say this was Jesse down here? What did he say? Or did he say this was Jesse? I don't want to rewind it.
He had to make sure that room 316 and 317 didn't have no remnant of invader running out of it. Remember, he had just, that could have been the invaders running down that ramp right there. And when those people start that phony point,
okay,
maybe the invaders might have went, no, down there. You understand? Because the invaders had what? Okay. Now, there's the maid. There's the cart. You see that cart? There are the wheels. You understand? At 6 o'clock, you ain't changing no beds and no motel? Check. Okay, let's let it run. There's a good shot of McCullough. There's Martin with the towel over his face. There's Martin again.
I looked up and didn't see him on the balcony, except that I saw his shoes sticking out the end of the balcony. All of the police, instead of going to where the shot came from, they were all coming to see what happened. So the picture on the balcony was us trying to say it came from over there.
Stop. There we go. That's good. There's that phony point. There's Jesse's head right there, making sure that he ran up there and gave a phony pointing. Now, here's the problem with the people pointing. All of the people pointing were this way, looking up to Martin. The shots came from behind them, whether from the bushes or from the rooming house, it was behind them. Not one single person said they turned around and saw somebody or at the rooming house. Those that even saw anybody, Solomon Jones, Earl Caldwell, New York, saw somebody moving in the bushes. Check. So how is it that those with their back turns suddenly become so definitive on something they didn't even see?
Right.
You understand? It's not logical that they're primary sources for a focus. Okay, we can turn the lights down. It was a script, right? So, and Andy's recanted his false pointing.
And covered him from his neck.
Wait a minute. He making a good point. How the hell is they pointing over here when they were saying, or people were saying that they saw somebody running in the bushes? Remember, Hosea Williams said when they saw the man, he got into a Mustang and it was like, cool, or something like that. They gonna catch him. But it wasn't up. That was a photo op to me. But that script part, that was the part, Pink Tulip, when he said it was a script, that was the part that got me. But again, this whole thing, I don't trust nothing and nobody in this whole thing. I don't trust nothing and nobody in this whole thing.
Down. Someone had a towel put to it. Blood was just everywhere. I went out in that yard and I started walking. And all
Now listen how mad he was.
the hatred in my life, which was a lot of hatred, came up in me. I went to reach into the air and take molecules, protons, electrons, and make me a gun and kill me some white people. Because I thought it was right.
That's my man.
And there, as you see,
Stop.
on the shoulder.
Now what's happening?
I want to stop real quick. No shade, Hosea Williams, but you said the exact same thing, word for word, bar for bar, on the other interview. Talking about I want to take molecules from the air and make me a gun so I can shoot me some white people. You also said, like, he literally, it's almost like he repeated, like, it would be one thing if you're just recanting the same thing, but he's saying the same thing, word for word, bar for bar, on every single doggone platform he go. That's suspect to me. That's very suspect.
NBC Meet the Press, the most watched Sunday news program, goes back to this moment that we're out teaching is a point of distrust and evidence of Martin's dislike to Jesse. They go right back to that spot, put him right on Rockefeller's NBC, toss that ball right up and say, Jesse, now when I toss this ball up, I want you to stuff it home. So he puts a circle around Jesse's head and a circle around Martin's head, calls it close, and says, you were one of Martin's closest associates. What did Martin King say to you the night before he died? What's up, Black?
Like, I keep Lewis Jackson. What did you say to Dr. King at that moment?
Yeah, back it up. Get that sound in there. And Jesse gets to holding his eyes all up funny like in the negotiator. Gets to.
Oh, I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. My eyes have seen the glory. As he continues to speak, he walks behind, and there, as you see, tapped on the shoulders by one Jesse Lewis Jackson.
Highlights two faces and wipes Ralph out.
Difficult to express it because I think we were all crying. It's different in that the minister stood at the right, there was count members. And then we were crying. It was kind of different. And like we realized he was under this burden, like he had released himself. So he tried not to come to church to see him. He acted as his house to see. I said, and this was that much with me. We looked together.
Stop.
And the crowd.
What did he say? He said, as you know, it was men crying, Ben Hooks and Billy Kyles. And as you know, he asked me to make that speech that night. And I said, I'll only make that speech if I can take Ralph with me. Now, here's the point. There would be no need to do no stupid stuff like that unless something else was going on that compelled the need to give him a chance to reconstruct history, to protect his face from the faceless people who got the facts. There would be no need to do this. It just wouldn't be a need. Okay, let's go back. Let's hear it one more time, and then we'll pull that one out. How hard have they tried to maintain and protect one of the people that they know was in on the assassination? And in 1977, this is from the book called The Man to See. It's by Evan Thomas, and it's on Edward Bennett Williams, a white man who used to own the Baltimore Orioles. If you read that book by Spike Lee on the Malcolm X movie, Captain Joseph talks about Elijah Muhammad going to Benny Williams to try to get the men out of jail who were allegedly accused of shooting Malcolm X. So he was known as a real fix-it white man who could fix a case in a minute. Big time white boy. Also chaired the president's Foreign Intelligence Advisory Board. It's like the outside intelligence people on the inside of the government. Even at one point rumored to be deep throat. That's right, yeah, just let it run. That's Posner. Stop. Let's see as we stop that. Let's go back a little bit. Let's show the face of Gerald Posner, the little mop-headed white boy. Right there. Here we go. Turn on. Let's go a little slow. Not there. That's the Mason Temple. Stop right there.
Another thing I noticed too, all of these civil rights leaders and all these civil rights places, there's a Mason Temple where they either planned, practiced, went to. There's always a Mason Temple but they all Freemasons and Eastern Stars. Rosa Parks, Eastern Star. Fannie Lou Hamer, Eastern Star.
That boy right there, Gerald Posner, he wrote this book right here, Killing the Dream. He wrote this book, Killing the Dream. And on the back of his book is that picture with Jesse, Martin, and Ralph, with Martin looking real puzzled. Can you see that? Okay. And in his book, Killing the Dream, he tries to help out Billy Kyles. Because in William Pepper's book, Orders to Kill, he says that Kyles is a Memphis Police Department informant. So Posner, he's going to defend Billy Kyles, and he puts this in his book. He says, Mike Webb. Said Jordan gained the election? He says here, Kyles told, in his book, Orders to Kill, William Pepper raises the strong inference that Kyles might have been an FBI informant. It's degrading and insulting, quote, Kyles says, about the author Pepper's accusations. It casts an aspersion over my 40 years in the civil rights movement. I saw how Pepper operates. Now, he says that he's appalled that Pepper called him an FBI informant. Check. But what did I say Pepper called him?
An FBI informant?
No, I said that Pepper accused him in this book, Orders to Kill. See, you got to listen to them somatically. See, they're going to deny something, but they ain't going to deny what they were accused of. In Orders to Kill, this book, William Pepper says that Kyles, he talks to the police chief, Sam Evans, who was running things then. He said Kyles was one of my informants, Billy Kyles.
Facts. The civil rights movement was one big Broadway production. Facts.
Was an informant. Billy Kyles is the one that told the police that Martin King don't need no protection that day. Okay? Billy Kyles is the one that made sure Martin King had his tie on. It was the briefing at 4:30 after Ray was checking in at 4 o'clock that said that friendlies will not be wearing ties, coding the people who are on the government side in the assassination scenario would not be wearing a tie. One guy that night was in an argument with Martin King because he was just insisting that he was not going to wear a tie to go to dinner. Who was that? Jesse Jackson. So much so that the argument is what held Martin King on the balcony so the shooting could go down after Kyles stepped away so they could get a better shot. Check. But my point here is that Posner defends Kyles as not being an FBI informant. The only problem was he was accused of being a Memphis Police Department informant.
Damn.
I mean, to me and you, an informant is an informant.
Right.
But when you're somatically denying something, make sure it matches the accusation. Check.
Wow.
Let's see. There we go.
See how important words are? He was saying that the guy Kyles was accused of being an FBI informant, and he was represented by the clear man who basically got off all these people that was on that Fugazi stuff. And he defended him heavily, saying he's not an FBI informant. And he was right, and he won because he was never an FBI informant. He was a Memphis police informant. Words matter. Like he said, to me and you, an informant is an informant. But when you dealing with contract, law, all this stuff, every single word matters. And the fact that he won off just that technicality, because most people would say informant is an informant, but it doesn't. My client was not an FBI informant at all. I stand 10 toes on that. And he wasn't. He was a Memphis police informant. That's crazy work. Crazy, crazy work.
Now, we just wanted to show Pops. Okay, you can let it fast forward. Okay, now, very important point. You can turn the lights up a second, because it'll take me a minute for that to get to the spot I need. In 1977, this is from that book, A Man to See, on Edward Bennett Williams. And this is Edward Bennett Williams says that Jesse Jackson came to see him because he thought he was in trouble with the U.S. government for misappropriating $1 million of the Push XL money. Page, for the record, page 464. When the establishment turned on Jackson, he came to Williams. In 1977, Senator Hubert Humphrey had seen a piece on 60 Minutes describing Jackson's attempts to motivate inner city youth to get an education. Humphrey urged HEW Secretary Joe Califano. Now that's important that he was head of HEW, now Department of Health and Human Services, because Joe Califano worked for the U.S. Army at the time Martin King was assassinated. So he was in on.
I think he's going to talk about it in here.
He was the legal advisor to the Secretary of the U.S. Army, and the Secretary of the U.S. Army was Cyrus Vance. His military attaché was Al Haig, and his legal counsel was Joe Califano. Not one single book on any King assassination or Kennedy assassination appropriately brings up the role of Vance, Haig, and Califano. So now Califano is on the inside, having been an assassin. Now he's going to help Jesse Jackson, having been an assassin. And Jesse Jackson goes to Califano. It says Jackson gratefully asked Califano for $25,000 grant. Califano told him he needed, quote, $1 million. Now, how many white people you ever met? You asked them for a quarter and they gave you $100. You ever met a white person do that? So it's strange. Jesse would walk into the government, ask for a $25,000 grant. Califano told him he needed $1 million and then proceeded to give the black leader $6 million. Of the $6 million, he misappropriated $1 million. Now the feds got him for misappropriation of funds. He's $1 million missing. Reagan becomes the president. Jesse gets scared. He asks Edward Bennett Williams to talk to Reagan to cut him a deal on the $1 million. Edward Bennett Williams says, when the federal auditors asked to look at Jackson's books early in the Reagan administration, they found chaos. Jackson's organization, Push XL, see, you saw that other thing said Rainbow Coalition. When Push had to pay back the money, he left the leaned organization, L-I-E-N, lean, like lean on your debt. He left the organization that had a lien on it and went to Washington and set up another organization. When Push paid back the lien, he leaves Washington and sets up Push Rainbow Coalition. Check.
Oh.
Okay, because you got to watch him. He's a magician.
Hold on. That's deep. See, when we just looked it up, it just said, oh, he had the Push movement and then he had the Rainbow Coalition and they just put them together. What Brother Steve Coakley is saying is, once he paid off that $1 million that he owed under that lean organization, then he came back and in order to keep them, because they both already popular, just push the two names together because now they, you see what I'm saying? That's crazy. This nigga Jesse Jackson ain't worth a dime, my nigga. That's crazy. Because I'm telling you, when you look it up and just say, oh, he had this organization, he had that one, and then he put them together to make one big organization so that he could, further push the agendas, da-da-da-da. Whole time this nigga was in debt and in trouble with the feds. That's why he pushed them two organizations together. Oh my God. Oh my God. That's crazy. We just read that too.
But the white man is his Merlin. Jackson's organization, Push XL, was unable to account for $1 million of the money. The matter was referred to the Justice Department. Jackson came to Williams claiming that he was a victim of a vendetta by the Republicans. The case was dragging on, producing unflattering newspaper stories at a time when Jackson was trying to raise money for his 1988 presidential campaign. And Williams says that when he talked with the Reagan administration, he said quite the contrary. They were not only not trying to arrest Jackson, but had favorable viewpoints of him, so much so that they cut a deal to pay back $550,000 of the misappropriated money at $125,000 a year. And again, as I said earlier, that's when Jesse left Chicago, went to DC. Just a case in point. The only point.
Now, why would the Reagan administration love Jesse just so much that not only do they love him, they want to endorse him, and not only are they endorsing him, they want to give him $550,000? Make that make sense. Remember, he says that it's an attack on him by the Republicans. Reagan was a Republican. So he owed $1 million. They thinking Reagan gonna arrest him. Reagan like, nah, I like him. So much so, I'm going to stand behind him. Not only that, I'm going to give him $550,000. This is deep. This shit is deep, bro.
Point to that is, no black man would ever be allowed to pay back a misappropriated grant when Abernathy's son just went down for $1,500.
Okay.
Now, I just want to keep that in line. Now, let's go back to something else very critical. Washington Post story. This story is dated July 12, 1999. And the story, which I've now collaborated from the declassified documents that I have, FBI examined private life of King's successor. It says that after King died, the FBI began to investigate Coretta Scott King, Ralph Abernathy, and Andy Young. They emphatically said we cannot trust these three.
What?
And we must do everything we can. They dropped the investigation of Coretta. They then went on to do to Andy and to do to Ralph what they had done to Mark.
What Coretta got going on where they wanted to investigate her? They say they dropped it, but Coretta.
That was on April 12th that they signed the memo. On April 12th, I'm going to show you Jesse Jackson announcing that every time there's a crucifixion, there's a resurrection. Saying that he is the resurrected man. Okay, what's that other tape you got there, Mr. Brown? Let's put this one in. Okay, let's put that one in and take it backwards a little bit. There's no other tape that back there that you have? And that one is still rolling. Okay. Now, Jesse's a strong proponent of the no Raul theory. And again, I showed you when I was here last.
We were totally dependent on Dr.
Yeah, turn the lights down. Now run it backwards. Run it backwards. That's Jackie saying that when the assassination went down, Jesse called her. And Jesse said, Jackie, Martin's dead. You're going to...
Not Eula talking about hell, investigate the churn too. Girl, the churn was 1, 2, 3, and 4. Eula said investigate everybody. Everybody got to get investigated.
I hear about it, but Martin's dead. And Jackie, she says, well, what are we going to do now, Jesse? She didn't say, how's Coretta? She didn't say, how's everybody else? She didn't say, is anybody hurt? She said, Jesse, what are we going to do now? Something you want to tell me? Okay, gotcha. Okay, and in this picture, now, yeah, this is Jesse announcing he's available for leadership. But just keep going back because I want to put this in context. Oh, there's the white man, Don Rose. He's very important because Don Rose, the white man, just stop it. Freeze. Oh, right there. Hold him up against the wall. Don Rose, great. His name, you all don't know him. I'm from Chicago. Don Rose is the white man that you see when you black to get the white media to report on you. You don't go call NBC, you don't call CBS, you call Don Rose, and he gets the media. When I was attacked and fired out of the mayor's office in Chicago, it was Don Rose who coordinated the white media's attack on me, which came May 1st, the Illuminati birthday, 1988. Don Rose is the man that Jesse Jackson left town to meet up, who put him on the Today Show the next morning after Martin was killed to start the discussion that Jesse is the heir apparent to Martin King. And you'll hear him say, I told Jesse, and we reinforced each other, that Jesse was the likely choice. Well, excuse me, Mr. White Man, are you in the SCLC? And doesn't this—
Wait a minute. So the man, what's his name, John Rose, he's the man who got the Negroes on the Clear People's news. He said that the Clear man even gathered up some stuff on him, Steve Coakley. But what's crazy about this is, remember when Hosea Williams said Jesse must have hightailed it out there right away because the next morning they woke up, he was on the news in Chicago. He's saying that the man, John Rose or whatever his name is the one who got Jesse Jackson on the news in Chicago that next morning.
It seems odd, Mr. White Man, that outside of the FBI, you the only other white man that feels it's your job to pick the black man to run the black organization.
And he picked him.
See, it takes a lot of arrogance for me to stand here and say who's going to be head of the next ADL. Lieutenants of Satan. That would be like, well, you ain't even in the group. You can't even vote them in.
Right.
But everybody don't know Don Rose. He's another one of those white people of the Jewish religion that got their fingerprints on the King assassination. Mm-hmm. And you don't know him. There used to be something in Chicago called Triple C. And Don Rose was the front man behind Al Raby, who was one of Martin King's associates, one of Harold Washington's associates, who died writing the resolution for the Black Jewish Coalition condemning Steve Coakley on November 25th, 1989. Al Raby dies laying on the resolution condemning me. Whatever there was struck his ass dead with a heart attack at 155 pounds, 5'9". Okay, now let's keep going backwards. Let's just keep going backwards because I'm going to show you Jesse in the courtyard. Now remember, we saw the people falsely pointing. For the record, in this picture is the man Raul, who's picked out of a lineup by a white woman named Grable, and Raul is standing next to Lee Harvey Oswald, who's standing next to Clay Shaw. Point being that the people who killed in the Kennedy came around for the king. Okay, same squad. Notice Jesse, does he have a tie on? Now remember we heard, stop right there. That's Calvin Moore. Oh, stop right there. Look at Jesse, no tie on. That ain't important yet. That's been branched. Jesse wouldn't wear a tie that night. The briefing to the military men is friendlies will not be wearing ties. Ralph had on a tie. Martin was made to put his tie on. Mm-hmm. But Jesse emphatically wasn't going to wear no tie. And when we look at the people in the courtyard, notice who ain't wearing ties and who is. If you get to King video #1, you'll see the people without the ties ducking when the camera comes. For the things you're seeing us do now, that's in King Assassination #2 in the video. The only audio back there is a tape called King Assassination 99 or Jackson's role in the King Assassination. They're both the same tape. Okay, keep going backwards a little bit. Now, Jackson's in the courtyard at that moment, but all the staff is at the hospital. Jackson told everybody don't talk to the press. Soon as everybody left, he started talking to the press. Notice the shooting was in the light, and now everybody's gone, it's in the dark.
Right.
Very important. Okay, let's hear Andy starting right here.
A jar and started scraping up the blood and said, you know, and crying. It was Martin's precious blood. This blood was shed for us. It was, you know, it was weird. The people freaked out and did strange things. Jesse put his hands in the blood and wiped it off the front of his shirt. But,
did you hear that? Jesse put his hand in the blood. He said it was creepy. It was weird. He said this is Martin's precious blood. Jesse put his hand in the blood and wiped it on his shirt. Didn't Hosea say he must have had to do that? Oh my God. This is next level ritualistic, devilish, satanic shit right here.
And it was, then what do you do?
You tell the truth.
In a moment like that.
Tell the truth.
Abernathy Young and others went to the hospital.
Notice nobody's giving a statement.
Where the media began to swarm.
Look at Jesse. Did you hear what he said? Stop in a second. Jesse's saying in his southern accent, I need me a ride to go see Dr. King. Anybody got a ride I can go see Dr. King? Now the staff done left with the body. Ralph's in the ambulance with Martin. The rest of the staff's in the cars behind the ambulance. The police who have cut off all of Memphis are moving this procession, towards the hospital with a police escort, since all the roads are closed. Now, there's a tape back there. It might be one. I don't know if there's one. I don't think there's one. Coakley TV. But I did a cable show in Chicago laying out the King assassination in Jesse's role. And I said this for the record before. Jesse saw the program. And when Jesse, for him. Because as I mentioned, as Jesse would see me in the public, all my friends go, whoa, here it comes Jesse. Whoa, Steve's here, it's gonna be fireworks. And then they watch Jesse run around me. And I'm saying, if I'm talking about him, just like if you was talking about me, I'll hunt your ass down. You would never see me run from somebody dogging me out. Especially if it's unrighteous. Jesse's asking for someone to take him to see Dr. King. Now, he could have rolled with the rest of the staff, but he didn't ride with the rest of the staff because it wasn't but 2 phones coming through the switchboard and out, and the one payphone. Jesse runs to the one payphone, calls his wife, then calls Coretta. So can't nobody get to the phone because Jesse on it. So the staff go, everybody says no talking to the press, they all leave. Jesse sees they all gone, knows he's looking around. Can I get a ride to see Dr. King? You know ain't nobody gonna take him but another staff member. After he says it long enough, ain't nobody to take him. The press says, come on, Jackson, talk to us. Go.
When you tell me what happened the weekend, Jesse always senses the moment. And it was the script. An epical moment. And he was there. The black people, the Liga, the work of the 400 or 500 year Liga has been taken from us by hatred and bitterness. Even as I stand at this hour, I cannot even allow hate to enter my heart at this time, for it was sickness, not meanness, that killed me.
Stop. Now let's take that comment. It was sickness, not meanness, that killed him. Versus Hosea saying, I was so mad I could take protons, neutrons, and kill me some white folk. But immediately, like Bevel, Jackson then forgave people he don't even know who they are.
Right.
See, it's something you give an absolution and ain't even nobody in the confession box.
Right.
You might as well forgive Casper the ghost. But he see, it's something you give an absolution and ain't even nobody in the confession box. You might as well forgive Casper the ghost. But he's already forgiven. Don't worry. Don't mess with him. Because it ain't nothing. It was meanness, hatred, or some old bullshit. You know what I mean? Okay, I'm sorry, but listen.
I'm crying, hollering, oh God. And I immediately started running as fast to where he was, and I caught his head. And I tried to feel his head, and I asked him, I said, Dr. King, do you hear me? Dr. King, do you hear me?
Stop.
And
Jackson gets up there, now that everybody's gone, and begins to say, I was the last person to talk to Dr. King. And I held him in my arms, and I said, Dr. King, can you hear me? Dr. King, can you hear me? And he never touched him. He never touched him.
And that's a fact. He never touched Martin Luther King's body, not one time. But he waited till everybody was gone, acting like he was looking for a ride, and then turned around and told them people, I held them in my arms and I said, Dr. King, can you hear me? Dr. King, can you hear me? Which would mean it makes sense why he took his hands, put it in the blood, wiped it across his shirt so that he can prove that what he's saying is true. This is a dark, sinister, evil man. I don't give a damn how old the nigga is. This is an evil, dark, sinister man. You got to be to do some shit like this.
See, he used that statement to say that's how he got the blood on his shirt. But Andy just told you how he got the blood on his shirt. What did he do? He did this. He did this. Catch that?
Yes, sir.
Jesus or Judas? Okay, so now Ralph Abernathy was the only person to hold Martin, just to be clear. And Ralph held him from the moment of the balcony till they put him on the stretcher. Ralph was the only one in the ambulance. Ralph was the only one in the operating room. Ralph was the only one at the autopsy. And you will cry when you hear Ralph Abernathy say, when they take that saw and cut open Martin King's brain, and he says, and I was looking there on that gurney at my buddy, and when they cut his head, I knew my buddy wasn't in that body anymore. And on that last speech, Martin King, before he makes that, I've been to the seen the glory to come in the Lord, he turns to Ralph Abernathy and he tells the audience, I want you to know something here tonight, that my best buddy in the whole wide world is Ralph Abernathy. And why did he have the need to tell everyone who he loved as his friend unless he felt someone trying to falsely plant themselves as that person? And
so Mike knew Jesse wasn't worth a dime. So what he's saying is during that night when he said, mine eyes have seen the glory of the Lord. And when they started, he said, I'm not worried about if I make it there, blah, blah, blah. He specifically said, my friend is Ralph Abernathy. That's so listen, he knew he was about to go. He already knew. So it's given that he said that just in case that snake in the grass, Jesse Jackson, come back and be like, oh, that was my good friend. He wanted me to be next. You will know that, no, I told you who my friend was.
Again, since Jesse was 6 in the order, there was no way he was the heir apparent, and Martin had already carved out the structure of the organization. They all knew it was Ralph after Martin.
So he already had Ralph coming up next. He didn't get shot in the body. He got shot in the face. I saw that in the comments. He got shot in the face.
Al Sampson could come up here and tell you how many times Martin ingrained. No, don't do it. Let's go here, because we're running out of time, and I'd rather have you see this than hear me.
By that time, Dr. While the rest of King's age huddled through the night at the motel, Jackson rushed back to Chicago, where rage was already sweeping the city.
Stop. The cable show I do in Chicago. I'm straight up down, seeing all over Chicago. Jesse watches the show. But in the show, I mentioned Al Sharpton inspired me. Jackson calls Sharpton and accuses him of inspiring me to attack Jackson. Sharpton says, well, what did Coakley say? And Jesse gave him every detail. Sharpton said, and I wrote it down. He said, and then I went to see Reverend Claude, I'm going to say Claude Wyatt. He said, I went to see Wyatt T. Walker, who was SCLC's field director at that time. And when he told Wyatt T. Walker what I said, Wyatt T. Walker said, protect Coakley. Don't let nobody mess with him. And tell Coakley that if Jackson ever attacks him or harasses him about that analysis, just ask Jesse to tell Coakley how he got out of Memphis on the night of the assassination, since the planes, the boats, the trains, the buses, and the cars were all cut off.
Oh, what did I tell y'all? Hold on, hold on. So pause. This is what he's saying. He did a lecture somewhere talking about Jesse Jackson ain't worth a dime, right? And all of the things that he noticed, saying that he a fed. Jesse calls Al Sharpton and was like, hey, because remember, he said Steve Coakley said that Al Sharpton was one of his people he looked up to. So Jesse get on the phone with Al and was like, yo, your little partner over there dragging for me. And Al was like, well, what did he say? And he told him everything that Steve Coakley said. And then Al Sharpton wrote it down, took it to another brother. I can't remember his name, but he said, protect Steve Coakley and tell Steve Coakley if he ever harass him, contact him to let him know that we know how he got from Memphis, this the night of the killing of Martin Luther King, to Chicago when all of the buses, the planes, everything was shut down. Didn't I tell y'all he probably got a doggone fit? I said, how do we know that he got a commercial flight out there? Remember, he got blood all on his shirt. I said, how do we know that he even caught a commercial flight out there? I know what I be talking about.
It's survival. I guess somebody lied. Smells like somebody lied.
It was all a lie. Guys, it was all a lie. She lied.
Listen to me. My deduction of the whole situation was, hold on, he got blood on his shirt. He got to get to Chicago immediately. You got to book a flight, wait for the flight to board. It just didn't make sense to me. So now if Steve Coakley is saying that this brother is saying, let him know if he ever contact you that we know how you got from Memphis to Chicago so fast when everything was cut off. What I was insinuating when I said, how do we know he caught a commercial flight is if he's a Fed working for the feds, it's no possible way, or it's very possible that they could have chartered him a private flight. This is crazy work. This is absolutely insanitary.
Inspiring me to attack Jackson. Sharpton says, well, what did Coakley say? And Jesse gave him every detail. Sharpton said, and I wrote it down. He said, and then I went to see Reverend Claude I'm going to say Claude Wyatt. He said, I went to see Wyatt T. Walker, who was SCLC's field director.
Wyatt T. Walker.
At that time.
Field director.
And when he told Wyatt T. Walker what I said, Wyatt T. Walker said, protect Coakley. Don't let nobody mess with him. And tell Coakley that if Jackson ever attacks him or harasses him about that analysis, just ask Jesse to tell Coakley how he got out of Memphis on the night of the assassination, since the planes, the boats, the trains, the buses, and the cars were all cut off.
Wow.
When I mentioned that to Dick Gregory right before he came here a couple of weeks ago, Dick said, well, you know what happened, don't you? The FBI called the airport and let one plane out. One plane that had one Negro man on it, who got away from the other saying he was sick. Jesse says, well, you know, when they had the investigation, they never talked to me. Nigga, you left.
Right.
You wasn't there. And that's when Don Rose says, and Jesse and I began to plan his resurrection. Then you're going to see Jesse at April 12th say, I'm ready for leadership now. And only 4 days after that, the FBI set up the plan to attack Ralph Abernathy and Andy Young and Coretta Scott King, with no plan whatsoever to attack Jackson, who's far faster, whose future was far higher than those donkeys and those mules. That thoroughbred would have been the one to stop unless he was yours. Okay, let's go.
We were going to get in the car, really a silence, you know, who's going to speak first, you know, because I didn't have the words to say, and he didn't know what to say. And when he came home, he got in the bed with his shoes on and a shirt. And he just laid in the bed.
And I think that in public, Jackson had an altogether different demeanor. It was as if he could see his...
Did she say he got in the bed with his shoes and the shirt that he had the blood on? Oh my God. Now, mind you, this is the press conference in Chicago. Girl, wait. She said he got in the bed with his shoes on and the shirt on and he just laid there. Oh my God.
The opening up before him at last, and he rushed for it. 14 hours after the shooting, he appeared on the Today Show. Later that day, while listening to the solemn tribute at the Chicago City Council's memorial service, Jackson tapped Mayor Daley on the shoulder and asked to speak. Pointing to his shirt, Jackson said, "This blood is on the chest and hands of those who would not have welcomed King here yesterday." Then he called for calm in the city and end to the rioting. Meanwhile, at Jackson's direction, a movement publicist was booking interviews on Chicago TV shows. They were falling all over themselves to get Jesse, and particularly Aaron Silver got out later that morning that Jesse had returned to Chicago and was wearing clothes stained with Dr. King's blood, and was appearing before the city council and so forth. Don Rowland accompanied Jackson to the tapings, the two men riding from studio to studio in the back seat of a car. He was thinking very clearly, thinking ahead, thinking of, frankly, his own career, the future of the movement, and his role in it. And we were both reinforcing each other with the view that Jesse was a very logical successor to Dr. King.
But you know, I think you get so much alive, I have to say what to do. For the third, I am available now. I'm going to every time that there is a crucifixion in life and righteousness, that in every day of universal, that there is a resurrection.
King thieves, long resentful of Jackson, saw his behavior as brazen opportunism. They were already angry that he had spoken to the press in the hours after the assassination, and furious that he had so dramatically inflated his own part in the story of King's final moments. A lot of those resentments that had been buried in the movement, and that allowed us to work alongside each other. But never got expressed in the emotion and frustration of Martin's assassination.
Now watch Coretta, watch Jesse walking in front of her. Jesse's walking in front of her at her own funeral. Look at him walking in front of her, and watch him turn around and look at her, and she turns her head.
Their story went. King had
watch this.
Jackson told him to go do his own thing.
She sees him looking, turns her head. He turns back, she turns back. That'll be in the tape. You can slow it down and look at it. Cut. Stop. Now watch this. Watch this. This is Pepper's book. Let's turn the lights on real quick. Now we're running down on time. I got to talk real fast. Page 246 of Pepper's book. In 1968, Ernestine Campbell and her husband owned the Trumpet Hotel, which abutted the Lorraine. No one has ever talked to her or asked her about what she saw on the fateful afternoon. Ernestine says she left the hotel and started home just before 6 p.m. Driving her gold bronze Cadillac up Butler and turning right on Mulberry, as she passed the Lorraine driveway on Butler, she saw Dr. King standing on the balcony. She didn't hear anything because she had the car windows up and the radio was on. As she turned...
Bruh. We have to review more Steve Coakley content. First of all, let's start there first. But I remember asking my grandma one time about Jesse Jackson. And she was like, oh, he wasn't shit. I remember my grandma told me that. Jesse Jackson wasn't shit. And I said, for real? Girl, Jesse Jackson wasn't shit. That was my grandma told me years ago. And that don't even give it justice as to what we just saw. And it makes it, just listen, it's given ritualistic, it's given sacrifice, it's given, I got to get him out of the way so that you can come up next. He slept in the clothes. He slept in the clothes that he put his hands in, and that's gotta be some ritualistic shit within itself. The shoes and the clothes, I'm pretty sure he stepped in the blood. Yeah, look, y'all saying the same thing. Your granny couldn't stand up. Look, my auntie and mama told me that. For real. My grandma said, oh, Jesse wasn't shit. My grandma used to tell me that. Bruh, listen. This ain't even all of Jesse. This is just the Martin Luther King aspect of Jesse. We haven't really dived into the African American. We haven't really dived into Jesse. There will be more Jesse content. Jesse's story is so complex, you can only do one thing at a time, and even that, there's still more to find out. But the fact that Jesse faked the funk and act like him and Martin was so good, even in his later years. Oh yeah, me and Martin, you know, the first time I met him, he was this and he was that, and you know, we hang out and he would talk to me and he'd say, Jesse, this, that, and the third, all cap. We gonna review more Steve Coakley content. Shout out, bruh. I'm telling you, I've listened to this man. I've listened to Steve Coakley's lectures twice in a row because you be missing stuff. KB, thank you for the super chat. The biggest racists are suggesting we get reparations, not illegals, and to not send the money to the world, aka Steve Bannon and his comrades, and culture queen racists use FBA now. They're listening. Yes, I seen her using that. I seen her. Yeah, you're right though. Listen, but I don't trust them clear people. I don't trust them. I feel like they're using that for a different agenda. Not Trump, not Ann Coulter, not none of them people. I don't trust them, but I see what you're saying. Thank you. Angela Jefferson, thank you for the super chat. Love you, my internet niece, Dr. Voodoo Doll. Thank you, TD. Love you back. Almond Brown, thank you for the super chat. You on fire today. It takes a lot of guts to expose this stuff. Hit the like. Yes, thank you, Almond. I appreciate you. Deserving one, thank you for the super sticker. Out the Matrix, thank you for the super chat. Great Educational Friday. Thank you so much. And KB, thank you for the super chat. My mom and grandma said Jesse orchestrated that. That's what I'm saying. See, and this is what I'm talking about when I say we got to get in charge of the history we teach our kids. Because the media lies. The schools lie. The church lie. They do. We know what's up. They don't. And our children, if they're going to rely solely upon the schools and the church, they're going to look at us like we liars when we experience it. Oh my God. This was huge. I don't know. We might do Jesse next week, part 2. Or we might get into some more Steve Coakley content for Boulay. Because if y'all think he went in on Jesse Jackson, whoo! Anybody who's seen Steve Coakley talk about the Boulay, you know it's going to be a time. With that being said, y'all, we had 2.5 hours. I'm going to get off of here. I appreciate each and every one of y'all. Shout out to my little small community. I love Educational Friday. It's my favorite. Shout out to everybody who be here. I really appreciate y'all giving me y'all time. You didn't have to. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. If you're returning, keep subscribing and like the video to everybody. I love everybody. I appreciate y'all for being here. And I'll see y'all on the next one. I'm about to jose up off of here, girl. My neck hurt. I'm tired. And I got to go to work in the morning. Ugh. Anyways, I'll see y'all next time or next Friday for the Educational Friday. But definitely tomorrow. Well, I don't know if I'll see y'all tomorrow, but definitely Monday for the morning jokes. Okay? Love y'all down to the ground. Peace.
Can you hear me now? Oh, let's go. It's your boy Big Chew, the voice of the beat. You know what I want? Blaze up. Come on, blaze up.
It's the beat for me.
Wah, 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 for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Drop it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Do it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Come on, baby, we live. For your boy. For your boy. Hustle for your boy.